And welcome back to another installment and another chapter of the Higurashi When They Cry visual novels. Yeah! I wonder what this chapter is all about. How about we get things started right away? Himatsubishi, I now entrust you with all the mysteries hidden within Higurashi When They Cry. However comical it might be, if you reach any conjecture, then you have passed. This final novel is a mega reward for you. Conjecture is impossible. You have the right to reject this story. I don't believe this shit. This is the final novel of this? Huh. Well, alright then. Let's start. Who is the criminal, you ask? Don't we search for them in the story? Who is the criminal? Do you know what your criminal did? Who is the criminal who will kill me now? Frederica Becastil. I still cannot pronounce it. Midsummer 1985. I have misread the time and ended up arriving too early. The schedule board flipped with a series of clacks. My flight to Sapporo was still a bit later on. I had over an hour before boarding. I might as well close my eyes for a bit on that bench over there then. I came here directly from work. Maybe the fatigue from that was making me sleepy. Finding a suitable bench, I put my luggage on the seat next to me and settled down. Phew. I sighed like an old man. I had hoped to stay young forever, but had become splendidly middle-aged. Apparently the rumor that even the people in the latter half of their 20s experienced a decline in their physical strength wasn't a lie. It had been mind-numbingly busy at work lately, so I rarely have any time to myself. This might have been the first time I've been able to enjoy a journey alone since I was a student. The reason behind this trip was to meet with an old friend. A bit strange to call him an old friend. In fact, maybe better to call him a bad one. After retiring a couple of years ago, he moved to Sapporo, his mother's hometown. His mother passed away soon after, and he was now peacefully enjoying his second lease on life. His name was Kurado Oishi, a former detective from the Primary Investigation Unit at the station in Okinomiya Censored Prefecture. To be honest, the only direct contact we ever had didn't last more than 3 days. After that, we exchanged New Year's cards, but never met again. This will be the first time meeting him in 7 years. We've met 7 years ago, in 1978. Something I just had to ask, to talk to him concerning that time. To explain that it was impossible not to recall the incident that happened back then. The kidnapping, the details, the resolution of which resigned to the darkness. It was impossible not to recall a certain mysterious girl. My name is Maru Akasaka. It was a year that had been strangely hot, even though it was only June. Early summer, 1978. Goodbye, teacher. Okay, bye. Watch out for cars. And don't drop in at a friend's house along the way. Make sure you get the textbooks in order for tomorrow before you go to bed. The lively sounds of children running towards the hallway. Uh-oh. Hey now, didn't I tell you before? I already have one of those. I don't need any more. The unique high-pitched voice of the youth. The energetic shrill of the cicadas when completely unheard by their ears. Children returning home from their schools split off one by one from their groups of friends as they went through intersections in the residential area. Even though there were several of them in a group as they left the school, as they got closer to their homes, their numbers dwindled. That's why the fewer friends you were walking home with act as an indicator that you were that much closer to your destination. Later. See ya. See you tomorrow. Parted ways with his last friend. A van was parked at a bend in the road. The window was open, the sound of the radio leaking outside. It must have been the news or something. For that reason, the three of them were arrested for traffic violations and obstruction of justice, due to the protest against the Hinamizawa Dam Project resulting in bloodshed when clashing with the riot police last month. Things have only become more violent. The police are therefore taking precautions against radical activists causing yet another incident. Last week, there was also a direct confrontation with Minister Inugai on the steps of the Ministry of Construction. The boys perked up at the mention of Inugai. A man's face peeked out suddenly from the window of the van. Behavior was a little different than that of a man looking around to see if there's any incoming traffic before he opened the door. His eyes meet suddenly with the unfamiliar man. The boy panicked slightly. Nightingale. Okay. Skylark. Okay. They secured the 2 blocks around us. We're good to go. The man in the passenger seat whispered quietly. Nodding in acknowledgement, the man opened the door and stood before the boy. You're Tokushi Inugai, right? While asking that, the man peered at the boy's name tag. Toshiki Inugai. The name was written plainly there. The phone rang for a third time. If he reached out, he could easily pick up the receiver. He was concerned that if he picked up before it even finished ringing once, whoever's on the other end of the line would think of him a fairly cheap person. That's why he normally never picks up the phone until the third ring. Even though it was a worthless habit. He's thinking that there isn't much meaning in waiting for just 3 rings. Wouldn't waiting for 5 be right? It was very much a reality. His mind filled with such trifling thoughts, he picked up the phone after the third ring had finished. Its reverb dampened by his action. Yes, hello? Hello? Sometimes due to the malfunction of the switchboards, the calls don't connect well. It was best to hang up and let the person on the other end call again. Think of that. The moment he began to hang up the phone, he sensed it was definitely connected. He felt presence of the person on the other end of the line keeping silent. Hello? No way they didn't hear his question. What's the meaning of this? It wasn't like he didn't know that people could use silent calls to harass others. But he never received a call like that until today. Just lucky before, but he didn't believe they would receive such a call on his phone. No direct calls to or from this line. Everything had to go through an operator. There was absolutely no way the call would be connected unless it was verified that there was someone else on the other end of the line. That's why he didn't understand how to deal with the silent call. Confusion settled in. I don't know who you are, but if you have nothing to say, I'm going to hang up. Please call again some other time. And then that to be the departing line, he made to slam down the receiver. The person spoke for the first time.
You didn't say who you were, so I was anxious. If you're not ministering a guy, hang up right away.
He couldn't help but be surprised by the extreme strange voice on the other end. A human, alive, who could speak with this hoarse and metallic voice. It was a voice he heard somewhere before. The kind of voice that was on those lowbrow documentaries that they use when they want to hide the identity of a speaker, wasn't it? The voice he was hearing on the other line. Over the line was exactly like that. I don't know why I'm trying to say that. Who are you?
As I said, that's what I wanted to ask. Are you Mr. Inugai?
He hesitated, unable to discern the intent of the suspicious phone call. He had a vague feeling something was off. He thought about hanging up the phone and asking the operator who initiated the call, but he forced himself to restrain the urge and for time being chose to state his name. That's right, this is Inugai. I said my name. What about yours?
It doesn't matter. My name doesn't matter.
Oh my god, we went straight into hatred.
My name is not important.
First of all, let's begin by thinking about the situation you're in right now. You're sitting in your chair, talking on the phone, yes? Why don't you try opening the lower drawer to your right?
A lock on it, not enough to function as a safe, but nevertheless, it was a drawer to contain valuable things. That's why the guy thought the person wanted some of the important information contained within that drawer. But I don't have the intention of opening that. I have no reason to follow orders from somebody who won't even give me his name.
If you don't open that drawer, I'll be hanging up the phone. You'll most likely end up regretting that. Why don't you think about opening that drawer first?
He didn't like following the orders of the suspicious person, but he was concerned about what the man said about regretting it. So he decided to open the drawer. He took the small key he stowed in his wallet, unlocked the drawer. His hand stopped right before he opened it. What if there was a bomb inside and it would explode? The delusion took hold of him. He quelled that instinct and opened it.
Did you do it? The thing that's in there. Do you know what it is?
What's the meaning of this? Hey!
I don't think there's any need for me to explain, is there? I'll give you some time, so think about it a little. I'll contact you again later now, if you excuse me.
Hey, wait! Hello? Hello? The call already ended. That would not change no matter how much he yelled. Inugai, still, without realizing, continued yelling. The drawer was still open. On top of folders crammed into it, this lay there. Toshiki Inugai, written in plain lettering on a grade school letter's name tag. Just lying there, enshrined there completely out of place, as if it were cowering. Well, we got a setup to our chapter. Do you remember, Yuki, this picture? Where I first proposed to you. The brief moment before you nodded back. You probably wouldn't know just how much it seemed like an eternity for me. I would have never thought that amount of time could feel like an eternity. Compared to how long I had to wait for you. From the moment I met you until the day. Compared to the time I spent since I was born, it might only be a brief period, but there were definitely precious, beautiful days that deserved to be called an eternity. That time continues even now. From now on. I wonder if it'll be a boy, or maybe a girl. Either one is fine. Boy or girl, it's living proof that we love each other. If it's a boy, we'll name it after you, Amaru. If it's a girl, we'll put the Yuki from my name in hers. Thinking about names is so fun that in the end, we haven't even decided. There's still time to puzzle over it. Not that long of a time, actually. You see, Yuki, there's something I have to apologize for today. It's my job. Sorry, it looks like an annoying bit of work has come up. In the worst case, I might not be able to be there for the delivery. It's fine. You have a very important job. What you do protects the way we live. Compared to you, it's nothing. Go ahead. When you return, I'll be waiting here with our child. Thank you. Also, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. If you feel guilty about it, you could just atone. If I tell you that much, no matter how much money I have, it won't be enough. It's a joke. It's a joke. Now go on. As I left the room, I bumped into an elderly man. Yuki's father, my father-in-law. Father, I didn't want to intrude, so I waited in the hall. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard. Go. Yuki is that kind of girl. No matter what happens, she doesn't want to hold you back. I forced Yuki to give up on so many things. I put her through this during childbirth, such an important time in her life. I'm ashamed. If you really feel that way, when you're done with your work, make some time for her. She'll be happier with that than you passing your work off on someone else. Thank you. I know full well you do important work. Be proud of what you do. Yuki's looking forward to your triumphant return. Yes. I jumped into the taxi that was waiting outside. Compared to the time where I first got here, the numbers on the fare meter had grown considerably. Seeing the modest time Yuki and I had spent together wasn't so modest from an objective point of view. Sorry to keep you waiting, go ahead. No worries, well, off we go. The taxi jerked off as it changed gears to accelerate, soon bearing the hospital my wife was in behind a throng of buildings. If it was to end up as a really troublesome ordeal, I probably wouldn't be returning for quite some time. To call a rookie like me, on top of that, one off duty, it seemed that the section chief was calling for all hands on deck. The veteran upper brass gathering on an emergency basis happened occasionally. First time, though, that I experienced everyone gathering like this. Whatever was happening, there was no doubt it was going to be something novel. Right when my wife was ready to give birth. If I wanted to spend the time to curse my misfortunes, I'd be here all day. Even the Vernon ginkgo trees lining the street that always brightened my mood seemed to lack their usual luster. Eventually, the government office came into view. Briefly holding my breath, I let the feelings of tension course through my body once again. I had to remember the work I was doing, and it was important, necessary, and difficult. I composed myself and sharpened my wit. Ready. The taxi stopped in front of the building. Kasumigaseki, Tokyo, Metropolitan Police Department, Public Safety Division. Chief, everyone's here. Akasaka-kun, could you close the blinds? They were usually closed when they needed to use the protector or the discussion was going to contain some pretty disturbing content. The blinds closed with a satisfying sound, darkening the interior. Immediately, it was completely drained of pleasant morning atmosphere, leaving behind the cold illumination of fluorescent lighting. After the supervisor ensured that everyone was present, he nodded to the section chief once again. With everybody on the edge of their seats, the chief stood up solemnly and began to give his report. Approximately 48 hours ago, the Minister of Construction's grandson, who is also the son of one of his staff leaders, is believed to have been kidnapped. It is believed the minister, in an effort to resolve matters amicably, chose not to report the situation to the police and plans to cede to the demands imposed upon him. Approximately 48 hours earlier, the Minister of Construction's grandson and those of his senior staff members were kidnapped. The reason why it was phrased that way, the person in question didn't admit happened. Based on this recent surveillance conducted with the minister's residence, multiple suspicious phone calls for what was believed to be outside the cities took place. The abducted child is said to be under treatment of illness, but there's no trace of any hospital records or witness to such effect. Due to that and various other reasons, we believe without a doubt a kidnapping occurred. They omitted the details that brought this incident to light. If you think about it a bit, that means before this incident happened, the minister's residence had been under surveillance already. Well, I can't use the word spied upon. Of course, there wouldn't have been court approval for this. It would be very hard to explain it to ordinary citizens. It was quite an effective method to catch wind of incidents like this before they got worse. I'd like for you to understand that dealing with these cases before they become a problem is the job of the Public Safety Division. Why is he just following the demands instead of reporting this? The fact that the minister can't even trust the police, what is the world coming to? Seems the group of perpetrators demonstrated that they have quite a high level of surveillance on the minister themselves when they conducted the kidnappings, and have to get the minister a pause before calling the police. We'll find out right away if you call the cops, more or less. so it's possible that there is a mole close to the minister. Several of the high-ranking members who seem to experience with this kind of thing let out deep sighs. The goals of the perpetrators, their demands, as well as this entire incident are as of yet unclear. But in any case, the possibility that this may grow to threaten national interests is extremely high. If the goal was to simply have their demands met for monetary gain, it would have been nice. But if it was some politically motivated shakeup, it's going to get complicated. Since we're not receiving any cooperation from the victim, we're not privy to any of the details of the threats or demands. Due to the fact that we believe there may be a mole involved in this incident, this investigation is highly classified. Only people in this room are to know of this. Furthermore, as this case is our utmost priority, we'll be placing a hold on everyone's normal duties. Understood? After that, the supervisor continued on, tactfully explaining the course of action. If this incident were to become public, it's possible the minister's political life would have been over. I'll spare you the explanation of how the rest of the dominoes would fall, but in the end, support in the diet would decline. Followed by a no-confidence vote, a snap election, might even expand communist influence. Wow, that went kinda dark. In other words, we want to handle this delicately. Kawasaki and Saiki monitor communications from the minister in the child's residences 24/7. Find out what the minister is doing. Report anything that happens. The remaining units investigate whatever is related to the case as assigned to your units. Focus your line of investigation on the commies, reds, and confeds. Don't discount the possibility of foreign involvement. I've experienced one or two unamicable situations before. This was the first time I've seen things get so hectic. Several sophisticated conversations were progressing without the involvement of a rookie like me. I didn't intend to be timid, but I couldn't hide my confusion at this unfamiliar situation. I cover that. As for Akasaka-kun, I snapped back to alertness. Yes, sir. Investigate the environmental groups that have petitioned the minister. Among them, there's that group protecting the Hinamizawa Dam Project that made the papers. Make sure you investigate them thoroughly. I doubt this is an act of some citizen group, but we have to eliminate every possibility. Understood. So, those opposed to the Hinamizawa Dam. Probably best if you go to the location personally. Get some information from the local authorities. They're a fairly radical organization, so the Public Safety Division there should have them marked. Understood. I'll head over there. Your wife, she's almost ready to give birth, isn't she? I apologize for the timing of all this, but I'm counting on your cooperation. We can't take our time with this, so we just have to brute force it with the boots to the ground. Yes, I know. My wife hates to interfere with my work under her own circumstances anyways. Sorry and thanks. So, as for Kawasaki and Saiki, that'll be support. I didn't want to take a business trip when my wife was about to give birth. Even if I was a little busy, as long as I was in Tokyo, I could head to the hospital right away. On assignment, though, that would be difficult. I knew the work I was doing was important and fully understood that I was in no position to be so selfish. I'd have to make it up for my wife for having to be away at such an important time. Yuki will probably forgive me with a smile. The only thing she could hate doing would be holding me back. My male ego, though, I at least wish she would have tried to stop me. Sorry, Yuki, I don't mind if you always complain to our child that their father couldn't come to the hospital when they were born because he was too busy with work. The next day, I took the bullet train to Nagoya, and from there transferred to the train to Blank Prefecture. Getting to my destination by land took several hours. If I was traveling by air in that amount of time, I'd probably get as far as Hong Kong. Blank Prefecture was by no means close. I never sat in first class except for work, but when I did, the seats seemed stiff. Closing my eyes, I mentally reviewed the documents I read. The group under investigation, the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance. A group of residents opposed to the development proposed under the Hinamizawa Dam Project. Local protests were quite heated. some getting more radicalized. Even limited to what was written in the newspapers, there was bloodshed that occurred with the clash with riot police. Interference with the dam construction, there's too many to count. Number of petitions, sit-ins, direct appeals to the relevant organizations were innumerable. An extension of that, there was a direct appeal to the Minister of Construction the other day. This was the reason why we're investigating this group in the first place. The land they lived on was going to be submerged. No wonder they were going to a frenzy. Even given that, could they really be capable of doing something like kidnapping the Minister of Construction's grandson just to halt the project? From my take on it, I had serious doubts. This kidnapping plot was extremely sophisticated, complicated enough that it was believed there was some political backing. This is something that couldn't be pulled out by a group of local protesters. Just like the chief said, the plan was to eliminate all possibilities. While I'm in the blank police's reference room, taking my time investigating, the higher-ups would probably solve the case, without my involvement. Even if that were true, I couldn't regret being away from Tokyo while my wife was ready to give birth. This was work. Nothing I could do. The announcement that we will be arriving at our destination snapped me back into wakefulness. Gogora, Blank Prefecture, Prefectural Public Safety Division. The Onikafuchi Defense Alliance, yeah, they've been quite active around here. The Prefectural Public Safety Department already had the documents and a cup of tea waiting for me. The short of it is, they're a group of residents opposed to the dam. Really, it's probably better to say every resident living on the land is going to be submerged. They're rising in on the action. Like the old saying, fight to the last drop. They're determined and well prepared a lot. It'd be nice if they drew the line at just being moderate residential organization. Stack of papers they had prepared for me in the document room was by no means thin. At first, they were pretty much average citizens initiative, but ever since that incident with the riot police, they started to heat up. Now they got a violent mentality on top of growing increasingly radical. A violent organization usually indicate ones that enforce their own ideology, no regard to the democratic process. Breaking that down, many of those organizations had extremely left revolutionary ideologies. Considering that, I couldn't help but be surprised that the citizens group would end up going this far. Apparently, it had never been to the United States. Radical citizen movements happen occasionally. However, this group was nothing as trifling as that. Seems that would have to reconsider exactly what this Onikafuchi Defense Alliance was. The Defense Alliance's demand, in other words, to withdraw the dam project. How far would they go to have that demand met? Kidnapping the minister's grandson was classified. That meant, of course, I couldn't tell the blank prefectural department about it. As you know, there were arrests after last week's confrontation with Minister Nagai. There was enough reason to believe they could use illegal means to assert their demands. I skimmed over the list of the criminal records related to the alliance, recorded in the documents. Contents were all violent. They weren't giving me the barest hint of a feeling that these people were trying to uphold the law. Can you give me a basic rundown of the types of illegal activities these people are engaging in? The chief opened up a manila envelope, fished out several unorganized sheets, and spread them out. The raids on construction sites are the most common. They were committing relatively petty crimes like cutting power cords, jamming locks, breaking office windows, throwing rocks. Of course, what really happened first were things like demonstrations, sit-ins, distribution of pamphlets, lively but democratic forms of protests. But then the demonstrators and the police crashed. A riot started, leading to numerous injuries and arrests. From then on, the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance, like the name implies, began to take more of a demonish form of resonance or demonic. If the raids were frequent, didn't the local police up their patrols? Of course they were on full alert, but they were up against locals. There wasn't much the police could do if they were sneaking around under the cover of darkness. Might as well label the entire map of Hinamizawa village around the dam construction site enemy territory. No matter how alert the police were, locals would just show them exactly how easy it is to sneak around. It was after the police upped their security that the protesters started getting even more extreme, as though they were being provoked. Can't you tell how things started to heat up? Office set on fire, destruction of heavy construction equipment. Destruction? They couldn't have used explosives. No way. You see, they crammed the gas tanks full of sugar cubes. They do that, it follows up the engines. Even in Japan, there has been people doing that to the vehicles of occupying forces right after the war. Compared to misdemeanors like breaking windows, it was extremely violent and aggressive. After being toyed around to that extent, the local police had to completely lose face. The arson was a bit much. The whole local police tragically increased the number of personnel they had stationed there around the clock. The raids on the construction site quieted down afterwards. He used the words quiet down, but this still smack dab in the middle of the list of crimes. Well, after that, found that attacking the site had become difficult and they started resorting to personal attacks. First people targeted were construction workers. After that, it was silent. What's being described to me was guerrilla warfare fought in the jungle. Threats and violence against the workers. Harsh words and harsher rocks. Quite a list of accusations, but there's not a whole lot of convictions. Of course not. First off, there's no witnesses. Even if we identify the perpetrators, they have alibis coming out of the woodwork. What do you mean by that? Take, for example, you're walking in Hinamizawa when a certain man stabs you with a knife. You will remember the person clearly, might even know his name and address, but the knife won't have any fingerprints on it. No other physical evidence. You'd think this would be a run-of-the-mill case of assault. Hinamizawa, it's a perfect crime. Everybody, the entire village, they'd all be in on it. To protect the man who would be the perpetrator, they'll get their story straight and even prepare an alibi. To that end, they'll probably even forge evidence. Nothing they could do but put them on trial. On top of there not being any material evidence, people testify one after another to cover his side of the story. Any prosecutor would hesitate to file charges. Not sure about murder, but if it's something like an open gash or someone's forehead with a thrown rock, or even a bruise, even if you could single out the suspect, enough reasonable doubt to not convict. Every case, without a doubt, is perpetrated by someone in Hinamizawa, but they can't identify who. Even if they could figure out who it is, they're unable to obtain enough circumstantial evidence through due process. The villagers were all extremely well informed about this, and so the malicious, vicious, and tenacious personal attacks continued. The victims can't be okay with that, right? Couldn't they have filed for an appeal? About that, everybody on the inquest committee didn't want to get involved with something troublesome. They won't stick their noses into anything related to Hinamizawa. The inquest committee is comprised of a random selection of local residents. In the event the prosecutor fails to get conviction, they have the power to order a retrial. A system designed to assert the will of the people on the actions of expert prosecutors in the legal world. In the case, however, composed of local residents have backfired. They don't want to get involved. Why is that? How do I explain this then? You could say they're afraid since it's a little special there. Is that an outcast community? It's a little different. Just think of them as them being afraid. A little hard to explain. Right, there is an easier way. Wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, he opened a file labeled as List of Members of the Onikafuji Defense Alliance. The power of Onikafuji Defense Alliance, you see? The fact they count many people among their members who are influential in the neighboring areas. Take a look at this. What I saw startled me. Prefectural, municipal assembly members, staff members of the Chamber of Commerce, an executive of a business association, an executive of a town council association, PTA liaison, more than a few people with a lot to say, both locally and in neighboring regions. Around here, you could pretty much expect your actions to be observed by those against the dam project. If you say something in its support, who knows how it'll work out to your disadvantage. Every town in this area is being held by the throat by someone in Hinamizawa. The list of Inquisition Committee members is undisclosed, isn't it? There has to be some measures in place to make sure they avoid retribution. Well, it's undisclosed, their privacy is assured. But the person in charge of that is from the Hinamizawa Municipal Office. Well, where's it local? While you might expect some professional confidentiality, you can't know how everyone is connected. The people from Hinamizawa have a lot of tight bonds in that regard. When you consider the obligations and duties people have in the region, the web of information thereby formed is nothing to scoff at. It's not uncommon for housewives in a neighborhood to know which kid from which house is which grade and which school, what subjects they're good at, what vegetables they hate, other things. You see, there's a Yakuza organization here with strong ties to Hinamizawa and the surrounding area. It seems they're providing full support in these recent incidents. They seem to be proving the most effective. Gangsters? Siding together with residents opposed to construction? A little hard to see what common their interest is. Not that difficult. You see, one of the lieutenants in that gang is originally from Hinamizawa, adopted into a rather influential family in the village. Exactly what is this Hinamizawa? I had thought it was some desolate rustic village, but for some reason they exerted a strong influence on the surrounding areas, a strong sense of unity. They would protect their village by any means necessary, even if that meant resorting to violence. The chief has said that they were afraid because there were numerous influential people living there, but somehow I got the feeling they were afraid of the village itself. Something clearly different from what I had read in documents in Tokyo. This was no simple project, and not a simple residential protest against the dam. For some reason, an uneasy feeling nestles inside and in the back of my mind. I chose the most basic way to ask. Directly. Chief, it's a hypothetical situation, but, the Onikafuji Defense Alliance. In order to halt the dam project, do you think they could threaten somebody important to accomplish that? She replied immediately. It's possible. Truth be told, they already gone to the municipal and prefectural offices and the local offices in the Ministry of Construction and done things that could be construed as intimidation. Several of the workers' families reported they being followed around by some suspicious people. That one makes sense. Halt progress of the dam, so they raided the construction site, they destroyed heavy machinery, they lit the construction office on fire, and if they didn't have any qualms about doing that, threats and violence against people related to the dam, there'll probably be no problem. But that was it. Even your everyday hoodlum could use threats and violence, but this time it was the kidnapping of a minister's grandson, a normally high-level crime. Not only was pulling off the kidnapping difficult in the first place, but so was maneuvering to have the minister surrender to their demands immediately. No way this was the work of amateurs. Did these people have the power to enact this large of a crime? That was the heart of the matter. Was the Onikafuji Defense Alliance an organization capable of pulling this off? In order to ask that question once again, I chose the most basic method. Again, hypothetically, do you think they could kidnap a relative of some political importance? No way they could pull off something like that big. The answer was what I was hoping for. If it was that answer, my work was as good as done. I might be able to get back in time. That was how it was supposed to be. The chief, at a hint of hesitation, replied, "They just might. There's no telling how far they go." Well, sorry, Yuki. Seems work hasn't ended up so simple after all. Oh, Akasaka-kun. Good work. How's the information gathering at the prefectural office? Coming along. Seems I'll be able to meet with their local public safety department. I'm planning on heading out that way. How's the investigation in Tokyo? Others are progressing along, but the number of groups we have to investigate are countless. Time isn't really a luxury here. There were no new developments. No matter how suspicious they are, if they solve the case in Tokyo, my job would be done. It looked like my wishful thinking wouldn't come to pass. Hanging out the phone, I let my gaze drift outside a window to the valley of unfamiliar buildings. Agasaka, a car you borrowed just returned. I'll take it to you, so follow me. Thank you. He showed me the elevator to the underground parking lot. A battered sedan was waiting for me. The steering wheel kept drifting to the left, a little concerning. It was a little concerning, but it would be enough to get me around. Destination, Shishabone City, Blank Prefecture. An area under control of the Onikafuji Defense Alliance. The Okinomiya Police Station, right on the front lines. Okinomiya, Blank Prefecture, Okinomiya Police Station. Shishabone City was, as far as provincial cities went, it was rather behind on the times. Okinomiya, recessed in the mountains, was even more remote. With little change between the seasons, all that was left was the tepid passage of time, made for a rather drab town. No tourist attractions, no local delicacies. Without even a strong regional industry, it was simply dull. Just looking at a monotonous and peaceful townscape, it was hard to catch a glimpse of the radical resistance of the Onikafuji Defense Alliance. The atmosphere of boredom didn't hint of the Okinomiya police station being on the front lines of the dam conflict, nor the numerous incidents that I heard about the prefectural headquarters. Good morning, are you here to pay a fine? No, I have an appointment with Morodai-san from the Public Safety Division. Tell him it's Akasaka. Ah, my apologies. Please wait a minute. The clerk, who thought I was here for a parking violation, fumbled with the unfamiliar extension number. They told the person on the line they have a visitor. Welcome, Akasaka, was it? Must have been tiring traveling all this way. Sorry we had to do this here. I tried to reserve a reception room. The counselor suddenly woke up and chased me out. I would hesitate to call what we were a conference room, as it was small and cluttered. Cramped space was packed with lockers. I had the impression it was more of a change room that doubled as one for smoking. Listening to crude chortles, I didn't get much of a feeling that Morodai, head of the local public safety division, was much of an intellectual. But I knew that in exchange he had both experience and confidence in his instincts. I apologize for interrupting you during such a busy time. I'm Akasaka, Metropolitan Police. Pleased to meet your acquaintance. Morodai, Public Safety Division. Nice to meet you. I was threatened by a Sankai from the prefectural gangbusters to be generous with my cooperation. Gangbusters? You mean the Prefectural Crime Prevention Division? You see, we're treating the Onikafuji Defense Alliance as an extension of the local Yakuza. You'd have to be a newbie if you think they're just a residential protest group. They say the prefectural office, too, that the Onikafuji Defense Alliance was linked to the local mob. If I recall correctly, the adopted son of somebody influential was the lieutenant. It's the other way around. Complete opposite. Yakuza put up the protest group as a front to justify their actions. Just think of it like that. Completely the other way around. Morodai was just about rolling with laughter. Slightly different than the info given to me in the prefectural office, but somebody embedded locally would be more knowledgeable. While we were talking, occasionally people who seemed to be detectives would come in and change. One of those individuals, noticing Morodai's gawfaws, came to us. I was wondering what you guys were talking about. Gura, perfect timing. Why don't you join us? This is Inspector Akasaka. Came all the way from the Tokyo Police Department. An inspector? An inspector? I'm still a rookie. I'm Akasaka. Pleased to meet you. Must be nice to be so fresh-faced. Did they hire you this year? I couldn't help but think I was being ridiculed, so I only responded with a forced smile. I could tell that this new person was like Mododai, the type of confidence in their instinct and experience. I really didn't like those types of people. Let me introduce you, Akasaka. This is Oishi, the investigative department. Regarding the S-file you were asking about, he's familiar. The S-file? S for Sonozaki. If something is an S-file, it has something to do with the Sonozaki family. Something of a code name. Sonozaki. I remember when I was poring over the documents, there were quite a few people with the last name Sonozaki popping up. If I remember right, there's a Sonozaki and one of the executives of the Onikafuji Defense Alliance. I'm pretty sure they're the treasurer. Two of them were surprised when I read aloud what post the Sonozaki held. After a moment, both of them erupted into laughter. Akasaka! Quite the studious one! Could it be you memorize all the central figures of the Alliance? Man! Well, I wouldn't say memorized. I at least read the list of the Defense Alliance executives. Yeah. Pray tell, the President, the Vice President. Mayor of Hinamizawa, Kimiyoshi, and Vice President is the priest of the local shrine, Amos Furude. Treasurer is O Sonozaki. Auditor is Makino. Liaison is Kimiyoshi, and the PR head is another Sonozaki. Wow, Akasaka, you're pretty good. The pay sucks, but you want to work here? You're just the type we're looking for. By the way, Yoshio Sonozaki is head of the youth department. So close. Head of public relations, Tadayoshi Sonozaki. I felt like I wasn't being complimented at all, so I started settling into an uncomfortable mood. But I was becoming more and more aware that I was the weakest link in the investigation. I just had to bear with it. I didn't mean for that feeling to show up, but the crafty detectives didn't let it slip. I didn't mean to make fun of you. To make up for it, how about I show you around the village? For somebody with no feel for the area like me, it would be a great help. I couldn't have asked for more. In the end, the Onikafuji Defense Alliance is nothing more than an alias Hinamizawa is using to deal with the outside world. I think getting to know the village would speed up your work. How about it? The residential movement, in other words, held influence over the whole region. So the leader of the movement was the leader of the influence. Just like that, the thought processes in the region will become the overall personality of the movement. Just like Oishi said, in order to learn what they were really like, this regional force behind the damn protests, getting to know the village was the quickest way. If you would. Not only bad without skipping a beat, Oishi laughed in satisfaction and stood up. If I took the information I learned from the prefectural office and from Mododai to heart, then my position was exposed, my personal safety was at risk. The opponent is an extremist group that had no qualms about using threats or violence against somebody. If my personal info was leaked, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that I'd be in danger whether on the job or not. Thinking about that, I felt a little nervous. These guys are good to remember faces. You've seen with me, they'll probably do a lot to hinder your work. Might be a little cliche, but put these on. Oishi handed me an incredibly suspicious disguise comprised of a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a mask. I didn't want to get all hot stuffy, but Oishi's warning was probably the right on the money. Considering that, I put them on. I looked so suspicious though. Oishi had to smile wryly. How much did I tell you? Let's see. To the part where you were talking about how these three ancient families control the village. The Onikafuji Defense Alliance was the same as the village of Hinamizawa itself. There was a direct correlation between being an executive of the Alliance and being a leader in the village, as Mododai had told me a short time ago. If the village was ruled by three ancient families, it would mean the Onikafuji Defense Alliance was ruled by those same three families. What did the documents of the prefectural office say? About the leader of the Defense Alliance or whatnot? The documents I was using were classified. If I responded to Oishi's question, it'd be a breach of security. Most likely, this man, I judged, was more well versed in this situation than any of the documents of the prefectural police department, so I decided to answer him. The president of the Alliance is currently the mayor of the village, Akichiro Kimiyoshi. For him to ask like that and to laugh at the answer as it was recorded in the documents, it wasn't the case in reality. So that means there's someone else under the Kimiyoshi behind the scenes, contrary to what the office thinks, or rather what is commonly known. Oh man, Kimiyoshi is nothing more than a figurehead. In the first place, the post of the mayor in that village is nothing more than ceremonial. So there's someone else in charge of both Alliance and the village. Would it be the three families we were talking about? I explained that part. All of a sudden, with a thunk, a car lurched. Paved road had given way to gravel. At the same time, the scenery outside the window changed. The Hinamizawa Dam Project must be withdrawn. Overthrow the shameless puppet of a governor. The dam will submerge the natural beauty of Hinamizawa. Protect the village from the unethical dam. Fear the wrath of Oyashira's curse. Demolish the dam. Those involved must go away. The construction office must respond. Office manager must negotiate with us. Signs and banners crowded the roadside. Reading the brush-scrawled words was daunting. It was as though when the road changed, it was a border with a different country. I was startled by the car suddenly braking. Looking ahead, a barricade was erected. 5 or 6 protesters wearing masks and helmets hiding their faces were blocking the road, yelling at us angrily to stop. What is this? A checkpoint? These guys never learn. Oishi snorted as he rolled down the window and leaned out. You guys can't be blocking the road like this here! As Oishi glared at them with a malicious laugh, they visibly faltered. Why don't you clear the way? I mean, we can't get by like this. Who would have thought it was Oishi's car that panicked? That panic thought seemed to make them lose their presence of mind. If it was known that we... If we didn't know it was your car, Detective Oishi, we wouldn't be so rude. What happened to your usual car? Is it in for maintenance? Something like that. I just can't get used to this car they loaned me. Judging from the brief conversation, I could guess they were familiar with the car Oishi uses and the license plate. If they knew the car belonged to the police, they would have hidden the barricade. What they were doing was obviously obstruction of traffic. Blatant. Who's this guy? Could you show us your face? The man glared at me menacingly, wearing a mask and sunglasses to make particularly dubious. Would not showing my face give me some unnecessary trouble? I turned to Oishi to see what I should do. Give him a break. He's a shy little rookie. We just wanted to make sure he wasn't anybody suspicious. Hinamizawa's been a bit of a stir as of late. Haven't you looked at yourself in the mirror? That mask you're wearing is way more suspicious. The man and Oishi continued to talk, feigning smiles at one another. But from the beginning to the end, I couldn't get over the feeling I was sitting on a powder keg. As the number of trucks illegally dumping still not decreased, it's a real hassle dealing with all the time. If the police could understand and cooperate, it would really help. During the conversation, the barricade was moved, leaving a gap wide enough for the single car to get through. Oishi Lele honked the horn once and began to roll the car forward. I could see the men's antagonistic glares at the back of the car in the rearview mirror. What was that just now, blocking a public road outlet? Of course it's a crime still. If you get worked up over that, it'll never end. Those guys you see claim there's an infestation of trucks illegally dumping in the village. Story goes that in order to stop that, they're halting suspicious vehicles and inspection. Illegal dumping? Like corrupt contractors just tossing industrial waste? A lot of argument is up to the police aren't going to do anything about it. They'll take matters into their own hands. Well, the industrial waste is just something they're doing by themselves anyway. By themselves? They have a pretty good strategy. You see, in order to hinder construction, they spread industrial waste over the dam site. Then, blaming it on corrupted contractors, they start instituting these inspections. Stop every construction vehicle coming through and interfere with them as much as possible. so it's one of the methods the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance is using. With an inspection just now, this car's license plate has probably been recorded. Shouldn't get stopped from here on out. Those guys know very well not to get me mad. Rumor is that they can figure a car is related to construction in some way. Not only will there be checkpoints at every turn, they'll be throwing rocks and planting road spikes as well. But you be careful so you're not identified. If they find out you're from public safety, who knows what you'll suffer through. It was acting like we were talking about something fun, but for me it was no laughing matter. It feels like we were wandering into a civil war in the Middle East. A good way of putting it. Pretty much just what you said. He turned to me with a grin and a menacing laugh. See, this here is a war zone. The car slowed down a bit as it went down a narrow road through farmland. You see that house in the forest over there? That antiquated one? Looking where she was pointing, there was certainly an old traditional design house. That belongs to the mayor, old man Kimiyoshi. It belongs to the main Kimiyoshi house as well. There's a lot of branches, but there'll be one of the three families. The three families. The ancient families that control this place? Yup. One of the others is the Furude family. Their house doesn't even have a single branch. All that's left is the head priest's family. Right over there. That's the shrine. He's the priest there. That's the Defense Alliance office. It's on the ground of the Defense Alliance office is on the grounds of the shrine. The office of the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance. If these guys were the enemy, that would make the shrine their stronghold. Can we look over there? The shrine is the Furude family's private property, you see. Being police, we can't set foot there without a warrant. They got a member of the Diet with ties to the village backing them up. Basically, being the police has its strengths and weaknesses. Well, even when we talk about the three families, that's something from a long time ago. Way back when those families used to hold councils to decide things about the village. So is it different now? Got a pretty good nose. That's what I expect from an academic. The car braked to a halt. Ahead where we stopped were several signs. Private property beyond, no trespassing. Beware of poisonous snakes, danger, turn back. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1,000,000 yen. Signs were erected there with things like that written on them. The road was separate from the forest by a chain-linked fence wrapped in barbed wire. Since this is private property, this is as far as we get to go. Several surveillance cameras set up further in. Saying that we just got lost won't work with these guys. They're beyond here, right? The people controlling Hinamizawa and the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance were neither the Kimiyoshi nor Furude, but the last of the three. Beyond here is one of the three families, the Sonozaki family. They're the ones controlling Hinamizawa from the shadows. Among the list of executives recorded in the documents, the number of people with last names from the three families were quite high. Of course, Sonozaki was no exception. At the top, was Kimiyoshi. The Kimiyoshi family seemed to be in charge. The rulers behind the scenes were, of course, the Sonozaki family. This double-layer structure implicitly told me this village had a light and dark side. The current head of the Sonozaki family is an old lady named Oryu. She has a cloud that you could call her Empress. Careful, she's no Solos Fry. Enough of a VIP that even the mayor of the city had to bow to her. Well, and Hinamizawa and the surrounding area are their relatives, amount to a block several thousand votes. No politician could show disrespect. That would make her the actual leader of the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance, right? Mm-hmm. And with that, I wish he pulled a well-worn cigarette box. The suspected kidnapping of the minister's grandson, subsequent threats, Were these part of the hidden plot by the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance to have the Hinamizawa Dam Project cancelled? You came all the way from Tokyo to investigate this, didn't you? Yeah, that's right. Something the matter? Then. Would it be related to the direct appeal incident with Mr. Inugai? If that's the case, public safety has them marked on a watch list? Something like that? Having you guess that quickly makes this easy. While exhaling a cigarette smoke, excuse me. While exhaling out the cigarette smoke, Oishi smiled broadly, like I just pulled a good one on him. Or so I thought. That's a lie, isn't it? Huh? The direct appeal putting them on a watch list. That's a lie, isn't it? He knew the way Tokyo HQ would dispatch the investigator or someone against Maya as a direct appeal. If they were to dispatch someone, it had to be a more dire reason. He figured that out as much. I thought of myself as the type of person who don't let things show on their face. In front of his watchful gaze, I felt that I was thinking. Whatever I was thinking, it was laid bare. He silently lit another one as if waiting for me to interject. This was a veteran detective's way of getting someone to spill information. As long as I realize this, there will be nothing more. If I didn't open my mouth, I wouldn't have to lose anything. All I had to do was stare out the window and enjoy the scenery until Oishi gave up. You really are bad at hiding things, you know. Being so young and earnest isn't so bad. He smirked as he twisted out his third cigarette, trying not to let him notice that I had yielded completely. I thought I won, but at the very least he ascertained that I was hiding something. I might have ended up marching to his tune. He started the engine once again and began to move the car. If you just be honest with me, I think I might be able to help you. How would you help? If the guy was out of the bag, I might as well use it to catch some mice. Depends on what we're talking about, but I might be able to set you up with someone who's knowledgeable about the goings-on of Hinamizawa. An informant? I see, is that what you call it? So why are you interested in my case, Oishi? I'm the same as you, isn't it our business to know things? Being able to meet with Oishi's informant was an extremely compelling opportunity. We were looking to recruit somebody familiar with the area to collaborate with for intelligence. In the end, there was no better method for finding people than asking. We were always taught, however, that the rank-and-file police were no better than monkeys. Unlike us, they were careless with confidential cases. We looked down on them like they run their mouth off in a drunken stupor. Oishi was an outlaw even amongst them, and here I was lost on whether or not I should tell him about the kidnapping. This informant, exactly how knowledgeable is he or her about the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance? If you're from public safety, you would know, wouldn't you? Something like that is something I can't just tell you. Protect your sources. That's the first principle of dealing with confidential information. In that regard, Oishi wasn't one of those monkeys. Should I trust him, ask for help, or no? So you work for the feds and I work for the prefecture. I don't think our jobs are that different. I think I could be of help. But I had trouble believing that this crafty old man would simply help me like he claimed. I find it hard that someone of your standing would help me out without strings attached. Well, it's not like I'm completely without an ulterior motive. As I recall, you guys have space in your budget allocated to pay informants, right? You don't need to submit a receipt for. Just a little bit, that would be the cost of meeting with the informant. In other words, compensation earmarked for the informant to you. Else the details of this deal are so clear-cut. He certainly was something else for being able to brazenly state the ulterior motive like this. Rather than him doing this out of the kindness of his heart, everything was a lot clearer if he was being compensated. I felt that he was the type of man who was good at these backroom dealings. Don't misunderstand me. It's not me who needs the money, it's the informant. In regards to payment, I'll be handling the money. When do you want it? Right now would be good. If you don't have it on you, tomorrow works. Pulled out a wallet that was different from personal one. Price was pretty much fixed depending on what kind of information I was paying for. In the case the payment was up front, considering the fact I didn't know what kind of info I would get and I shouldn't pay too much. When I suggest that, I wish he'd stretch out his hand and tightly grasp the contents. At times like this, it's best to you not to be so stingy. It's alright, it won't go to waste. Okay, I won't be stingy. And what kind of information are you looking for? Depending on what you want, how do we approach this will probably change. You swear you won't spread this information to anyone else, Oishi? I can't swear as much. I'm the same as you. Can't withhold information obtained during the course of my duties. I got it, I swear. Nothing here gets said anywhere else. On top of that, thanks to you, I can pay back what I owe for my mahjong debts. In any case, I won't break a promise that involves money. I was still unsure if I should trust him until the very last moment, but in the end I broke down. He wasn't the type of guy I could trust 100%, but there was no mistaking he had access to underground information networks. In order to accomplish my mission swiftly, I needed cooperation. So I set my resolve. I'm investigating whether or not the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance is related to a certain incident. A certain incident, huh? There's a possibility that the Minister of Construction, Inugai, is being coerced by someone. A possibility is kind of a roundabout way of putting it. There was a mole close to the minister, and due to that mole, the minister had been monitored quite thoroughly, and it was seemingly forced to see their threats right away. None of this was reported to us or the police. I see, so that's why you're saying there's only a possibility he's being coerced. In that case, isn't it a little strange? If the minister didn't report this, how did you guys know about this? If we didn't spy on the minister's private life, we would have never found out. I don't think we had to provide that explanation to the informant, so I'm omitting it. He apparently caught on and quietly chuckled. I see. A spy close to the minister, so public safety made it highly classified. Certainly is a very amicable story. If the matter became public, not only would this affect a political career, the possibility of there being a shift in the political landscape is extremely high. If the perpetrator's aim is indeed that, this could develop into a very grave situation. Well, with the government having development projects all over the country, they're butted heads with quite a few people. Wouldn't take much wrongdoing for the left-wing parties to suddenly garner more support. We're currently investigating what demands are being forced on the minister, but at least we have a good idea of how he's being threatened. How? The minister's grandson was kidnapped. They're denying it, but judging from what he was last seen, his belief has already been 72 hours since kidnapping. 3 days. If they just after ransom money, this would have been settled. It might be this is for monetary gain. The possibility is that they're forcing the minister to do something political is extremely high. Something we just can't consent to. So, the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance was listed as one of the possible perpetrators. That's correct. Kidnapped the minister's grandson and demanded cancellation of the dam project. What do you think, Oishi, from your point of view? You think that's possible? He seemed to ponder the idea for a while. The section chief of the regional office had responded immediately with it's possible, but Oishi, who was this well-informed about the matter, was hemming and hawing. And just a little bit, he said something really strange. This was before the Meiji area, you see. This area wasn't named Hinamizawa Village. It was Onikafuchi. This is just what I heard from my grandmother. This topic was so completely and somehow unrelated to the subject of kidnapping, I was taken slightly aback. So that's why they call it the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance? You see, the village of Onikafuchi was said to have been inhabited by demons that devoured humans. Even now, it's believed the blood of these demons partially courses through the veins of the villagers. Demons devouring humans? What are you saying? It's information. I got a lot from you just now. A little too much. In exchange, I'm giving you a little freebie. He finally smiled, but it didn't seem like he was fooling around. Please continue. These human-devouring demons, normally they were revealed as Taoist transcendents, live tuckered away from the rest of the world. But they ain't people after all. Apparently they go to villages in the foothills regularly, abducting their prey. They used to call that being demoned away of Onikakushi. Demoned away. First time I heard such a peculiar phrase. But I felt something slightly ominous from this horrifying tale of demons abducting people to eat them. You know how there's common phrases, spirit away, right? People suddenly go missing one day. They call it that. The same thing happens around here. They call it being demoned away. So how does that old tale relate to this? Oh no, there's no relationship. Making small talk. It's just... The car shook. The gravel road had changed to a paved one. Just what? Around here, the phrase demoned away is somewhat of a code for disappearances and kidnappings. Just thought I mentioned that. I don't know if that's anything to do with the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. But there's no deep meaning behind it. It's just that there's a little bit of history in it. Onikakushi. Human-eating demons coming down to the foothills, abducting their prey. In order to cancel the dam project that threatened to submerge the village they lived in, they demoned away the minister's grandson. Then he had already made an example out of the minister and eating him alive. A bit of an interesting old tale, isn't it? If you set foot into the demon's village without reason, you're promptly captured and eaten alive. Yeah, don't go near Inakufuchi. Kids these days won't have these superstitions, would they? Even amongst the older folk at home, I'm born in the Meiji area. There's quite a few who would heed these warnings. This village is feared by the people in the area. I recall that piece of information I heard from the Prefectural Public Safety Division. In any case, we're in the boonies out here. Kind of expected there to be some superstitions around. Somebody from Tokyo like you, Akasaka, probably couldn't even begin to imagine it, could you? Man-eating demons. The price for violating the sanctity of the village, kidnapping the minister's grandson, swallowing him whole. The ludicrous idea flew through my head. So absurd I was half disgusted. Oishi was just teasing me. Stupid. It was all really stupid. Come to think of it, by then I may have already been seized by the curse of the dubious village. For me to realize that would be a little bit more time. A phone call with Yuki, record opening marks, gears of fire and a taste of honey, and the chick in the trunk. Welcome to the land of demons. Let's check out these tips and we'll call this recording done. Oh really? It's tough when there's such a sudden assignment. Please be careful. Where are you headed? You already there? Wherever I headed out on an assignment, she would ask where. Not just Yuki, but anybody would have asked. If it was a go place, she would urge me to pack a thick jacket. Felt as far as she'd warn me to be careful and drive over. Just normal everyday concern that led to asking such an obvious thing. I felt sad I couldn't answer such a run-of-the-mill question. Sorry, something you can't talk about, is it? Please be careful. Sorry, Yuki. At some point, you started apologizing right away. Even though when you first started your job, you were all gung-ho about it. Yuki laughed as though she had realized something. Oh wait, did I hit something? Close. At times like this, Yuki had the magic power to see right through me. Sorry, it's been quite a while since I was admitted to the hospital. Are you finally getting lonely? Don't tease me, I'm too old to get lonely. Oh really? You like to be doted on? Don't just start getting a little faint of heart when I'm not around. Oh jeez, I can't see the little devil horn sprouting from your head right now. You're always been like this. You can't hide it, you can't hide it. If I don't play with you, you get all lonely. I can hear your tail wagging over the phone. That side of Yuki wasn't something you can guess, sister, from seeing your usual modest behavior. It was something that she didn't show to anyone else but, well, me. Normally I poke her to hide my embarrassment, but I couldn't do that over the phone. Of course, Yuki was clever. She was teasing me because of that. I wonder when I figure it out that giving you grief was this much fun. Give me a break. In any case, it's good to hear you so lively. I know, right? Didn't I cheer you up? I had to call Yuki to keep her from feeling lonely. Of course, that was nothing more than a pretense being shy that I come up with. Seems that Yuki had long since seen through that act. Please phone again when I'm not feeling up to it. I'll get my father to talk to you. If you're talking to my father, I get the feeling you'll be standing at attention on the other side of the line. For a while longer, you could keep teasing me without letting me in the call. A record of opening remarks. Oh boy, I wonder what this says. A censored chairman. Chairman X, members of the Blank Party, congratulations are due. These past 20 years, see much growth in the prefecture. Once quiet scenery have nothing but fields. Now have seen the opening of a new stop for the bullet train. With the development of the highway, the rebirth of a modern city bursting with youthful energy, reap the benefits of new business and industry, a special reverence to the residents of Blank Future have for time-honored traditions, history and culture, business and industry. With these ideals in harmony, they have accomplished growing their city into one of Japan's foremost metropolises. That couldn't have happened without the growth of the Blank Party. I wonder which party this is. We saw to see every one of our campaign promises to fruition, reaching our targets, definitely spending like arrows fired from a bow. Yikes. I'm sick of politics. I'm just gonna fucking let this go. Yikes. Falling apart, not in the script. It's thought to an ad-libbed by the minister. For example, Hinamizawa Power Plant Project. Rather than forcing through the project solely because it was decided upon the government, it's necessary to protest by the local residents that surround it. They're also the will of the people of the prefecture. If you feel there's no need to listen because the project has already been finalized, you do nothing more than shed a poor light on Japan's post-war democracy. Next bet. The world is filled with people blessed with relationships. Of course, that doesn't mean that everyone's connected to each other. Obviously, the other side of the planet, there are people laughing and crying who can't possibly have an effect on you. However, in the extremely limited community of the neighborhood, that sort of connection is just a matter of fact. Quite possible that a single remarkable event could have massive consequences inside a small community. If you were to increase that in scale, a perfect stranger on the other side of the globe might have become enough of a legend to have an effect on our lives. Well, it's not always that way. Like I said at the beginning, the links between people basically aren't that relevant in the grand scheme of things. Whether some household nearby is having steak or croquettes, it doesn't matter. When I put on my shoes, it won't matter to anybody if I put the right one on or the left. This much the average person can understand. But in reality, this is the truth. The bonds between people are quite well defined. Not just a matter of distance, being far or near. Person A's actions have some effect on me. Person B's actions could have absolutely no consequence on my life. The reverse holds true. My actions affect Person A, that doesn't mean it'll affect Person B. So let's put it bluntly. The bonds between people are like gears in a machine. The gears that represent me meshes with some people but isolated from others. Some who would try to argue against this, people would bring up the example of gears in a clock. Each gear indeed only directly meshes with one or two others. If you rotate a gear, the one next to it's moved, connected to the next one, then the next. All the gears are moving. The logic behind this more than enough to convince the average person. Why is this argument convincing? Your answer is simple. Relationships between people are ambiguous and can only be described conceptually. But the gears are connected, and how their movements are chained together can't be used as a fundamental explanation, so it throws a wet blanket. So, for the people who like that explanation, I'll use the example of a clock. To say that this world is a singular clock would be wrong. There isn't only one clock. Many in this world, each counting their own time. If you think about it, the idea that this world is just one big clock is the height of arrogance. Even if you use the analogy of gears to explain human relationships, you should be able to explain using an analogy of multiple clocks unrelated to a single gear. Neighbors A and B. A is a gear in the same clock as me. It's best to remain civil. A gear indifferent in clock. He doesn't really matter to me at all. The kind of clear distinction I'm talking about. You want to say I'm being fallacious? Then let's change the analogy to something more familiar. Heard of a phrase, a fire on the opposite shore, sometime in your life, no? For example, if your neighbor's house was on fire, you're probably trying to help put it out. It'd be awful if the fire spread and burned down your own house, after all. What if the fire was in a town on the opposite side of a river? Would you still go out of your way to help? You wouldn't, would you? It would be wrong thing to do. There's no way the fire could spread to your own house. Even if it turned out to be a huge conflagration, there was no relation between the houses that would spread fire to yours and those that won't. With this basic example, you should be able to see the difference between gears that are or aren't related. Having said that, there's still a lot to think about, even without a river to divide it. It's not a spatial problem like being on the opposite side of the river, isn't it? The chick in the trunk. The car stopped, but didn't know any more than that. For not only he was blindfolded, but locked. How could people become this powerless just being robbed of their sight? He absolutely wouldn't know this without experiencing it. He soon realized it was pointless to try and undo his bonds with the confines of the trunk quickly making him look at it. He had no choice but to let this mild torture dull his senses. That's why when the car stopped and the unpleasant vibrations ceased as the engine was killed, he couldn't help but delude himself that he was being set free, even though nothing had been resolved in reality. Of course, he was soon removed from that delusion. Strained his ears when he heard one of the men who had abducted him and an older man he was hearing for the first time struck up a conversation. The chick is in the trunk. He struggles so much he's probably exhausted right now, but there's not a mark on him, just as ordered. Must have been a handful. The trunk opened, letting a blast of fresh, cool air. Even though up until just now you've been thinking about getting out of that stuffed trunk, when it was actually opened, he became uneasy. Even so, did he wish that lid of the trunk would open, well, once again closed, separating himself from them. Somebody struck his head. Of course, he was blindfolded. He couldn't tell if it was petting him or evaluating how easy it would be to remove his scalp. Unable to tell the difference, he could only freeze as he imagined the worst-case scenario. What little bugger? He's shaking. Stay calm a bit. The older man said that kindly as he gently stroked the boy's head. Must have been real tough for you. But you see, your grandson's a nice man. It'll be soon enough. Having heard nothing but the average standard dialect his whole life, the old man's distinct intonation left a deep impression on the boy. But he had no idea what he was saying. For your Gramps to register as your grandfather, it took a while to process. Eventually, the hand that was stroking his head loosened the blindfold. Gotta keep his eyes covered. If he spills his face open, then he'll be bad. And with that, I might as well take out the gag. You keep breathing like that. Trouble, he yells. Leave him to us. You guys know how to treat somebody. I mean, families said no rough stuff. You better remember that well. Yeah, we won't do anything stupid. As long as the kid cooperates. The man's hand prodded roughly and repeated as the boy's head. A rugged hand, unlike the affectionate one that had been stroking his head before. Just stay cooperative. If you struggle, no guarantee what will happen. That cliched threat was literally beaten to his head. So unfortunately, the chick in the trunk is the boy in the trunk. Let's save this. We'll be able to continue on later.